G'day guys, welcome to this very, very cold winter's day here in Melbourne. I'm here to do a big preview for our upcoming clash against the Richmond Football Club at the MCG on Sunday afternoon starting at 20 past 3. If you think it's cold today, it's going to be freezing on Sunday, 12 degrees, 40% chance of rain. So it's going to be a cold one. Before I get going, though, I just want to thank a long-time supporter of My Blue Heaven, that is League Tees. Once again, they've come through with the goods. I really appreciate their support. Really, since day dot, since this channel started, I reached out to them, and yearly they send out some t-shirts for me. This one, which came in the mail on, I think it might have been on Tuesday, is an absolute beauty. Blue Bloods, Harry and Charlie, simple to the point. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. What I'll do, I'll put the League Tees website. You can access their catalogue, have a look at the t-shirts. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Retro, quirky, brilliant. I'll put that in the description below and support those lads because they do some wonderful work and some fine products. So once again, thank you guys from League Tees. Okay, let's sink our teeth into this one. Where's my pen? I need a pen in my hands when I do. And you probably noticed, guys, I've got my glasses. Okay, so they're all fixed and ready to go, which I'm happy about. I need a pen in my hand when I do these previews and reviews. I am fascinated by this contest. On paper, you look at this, we're second. The once mighty Richmond Football Club, who had a golden period not that long ago, and they have fallen pretty quickly. They sit second bottom with only 2 wins for the whole season. One of those wins was a couple of weeks back, the week before the bye. They're coming off the bye. They beat Adelaide in Adelaide, which was a really good win. Anytime you travel interstate, particularly when you were battling with injuries and form, to get the job done. It was on a Thursday night. That was a fine win, but the following week, Dusty's 300th game, they'd rested him for that Adelaide game, and then they came out and got their pants absolutely pulled down by Hawthorn by about 48 points, I think it was in the end. And the only team this year that have upset the Sydney Swans. That is quite unbelievable. That happened way back, though. So only 2 wins for the Tigers this season. You just got to think, what are they actually playing for right here, right now? You would think that their minds would be thinking about the end of the year. It's been a real grind and a real battle for them. And if you listen to their supporters, I think they're crying out for the end of the year as well, where they can start to focus on the draft, getting some of their players back on the park for next year. And I think it's just been a really rough season for them. I mean, you don't want to necessarily use injuries as an excuse because we've copped it as well, but not as bad as Richmond. But it's just a long injury list, and they really haven't had any chance to get anywhere where they're probably capable of. Even if they did have somewhere near their full-strength team on the park, I don't think they were in a position to be challenging for the 8 anyway, but they certainly probably wouldn't be second last on the ladder. But let's just run through it. Lynch comes back after such a long layoff for Dusty's 300th, and he's done his hamstring again, so he'll miss. Presti a calf, they can't get him on the park. He's a quality footballer. Pickett, who controls one of those wings, does a reasonable job for him. Premiership player, he's out with a calf. Maurice Rioli, they've had problems getting him on the park after really showing some great signs as a small forward. He's out with an ankle. Jack Ross, midfielder, out with a foot. The big fella, Samson Ryan, I really like the way he goes about it. Samson Ryan, he's out with a foot injury. Grimes, the veteran, I think it's just about all over for Dylan Grimes. He's out with a back injury. They would have been excited to what they see with Lafau. He was a really exciting prospect. He's out with that knee reconstruction. Gibcus came in at the start of the year after being out all of last year with a hamstring injury. He's out as well. Tyler Young, Sam Naismith, Judson Clark, the list goes on and on and on. From a positive, and I don't want to talk too much about the Tigers, from a positive, they will get Hopper back into the team. So they've got their 2 recruits from GWS, Tim Taranta and also Hopper, to just, I suppose, boost to that midfield. But it's just been a bit of a drag the whole season for the Richmond Football Club. I must say, I don't mind Adam Uze. I don't think there's a lot of ego in there, and I think for the most part, he's probably the right person, the right mentor for Richmond at this really difficult stage for them. But they have fallen really quickly. And for the first time in such a long time, I, as a supporter, are rocking up to this game, and I'm not expecting our team to be thinking like this, but I'm rocking up to this game with no fear at all with this Richmond team, and I mean no fear at all. Does that mean I think it's going to be easy across 4 quarters? Not at all. If they bring some energy and they bring the heat, and Adam Uze can get them up, they'll certainly be competitive. But I am fully expecting a victory at the MCG on Sunday to keep our season rolling, to keep the momentum rolling. But I don't know about you guys, but I am fascinated by the psychology of this game. And it's probably more the psychology as us as fans, or me as a fan, and how I'm thinking about this with, what have we got, 8 or 9 games to go, and we really are on the run home. And the fact that we are taking on, for the first time in a while, a team that is really battling. It's been a really tough period for us, but we finally are facing a team that just can't, are really at times non-competitive. So the psychology of this is really interesting, because they could be, how do I say this? Any team can beat anyone if you're slightly off. Like, I know that's a cliche, but it's reality. I'm not expecting our boys to be off, but there's always that chance that you underestimate the opposition. And who knows exactly how these Richmond players will be feeling at this time of the year coming up against an arch rival. Maybe they're super excited about it. Maybe they've had the bye, they're refreshed. Maybe they see this as their grand final, considering they've beaten Sydney, are on the top of the ladder, and they might be thinking, okay, we've beaten Sydney, no one else has. Okay, let's knock off Carlton as well, and we can at least say that we've knocked off the 2 top teams in the competition. And how good would that be for essentially a young list going through transition? So maybe that's motivation for them. But if we can match them early, because I think their energy and enthusiasm will be up early. I think it was against Hawthorn, but they soon fell away with the pressure that Hawthorn applied, and with Hawthorn's speed and power and just their running ability, they just couldn't go with them. So the thing I'm confident about us at the moment, guys, is that even though this is new for us, and I know we went deep into the finals last year, but we were rock and rolling last year. We had to essentially not have any slip-ups in the second half of the season after how poorly we started. It was just like, as I mentioned after the Geelong game, in regards to last year, it felt like it wasn't real. And I don't know how the players were feeling at that time, but it just felt like we were on such a golden run that it was impossible to stop that momentum, and we needed to. Every week we needed to win regardless of the opponent. And it wasn't until that last game of the year against the GWS Giants that we had to slip up, because we'd already secured a spot in the finals. This time the psychology is a little bit different with this group, but I am confident in the fact that we've got a couple of really strong mentors in, obviously, our senior coach in Michael Voss, and also Ash Hansen, 2 premiership players who are pretty smart cookies, and would know how to keep this team grounded, because this is essentially new for us to be in this position, second on the ladder, and looking like a real chance to stay there. I don't think we can necessarily afford, not this week anyway, to have a drop off. So I will be really interested to see what our energy is like, and what I mean by energy, what our pressure is like at the start of this game. Will we be really switched on? Because we have, for the most part, dominated first quarters, and if we can do that again against the Tigers, we'll break them, I think, pretty quickly. So the psychology is really important with this, not so much the physical. I think the physical is important. So it really needs to come from the collective, rather than just saying, okay, our leaders need to set the example. I think it needs to come from the collective. And although this is new, I mean, and I did mention after the Geelong game, it almost felt like we have peaked. I don't know if you guys think the same. Can we get any better with that performance? I don't think you can't control how well you're playing. I don't think you can just think, okay, we still got 8 games to go. Don't want to go too hard right here, right now. We still want a bit left in the tank. I don't think you can necessarily control that. So I am expecting over the course of the next month or so a slight drop-off, but not too much of a drop-off, if you know what I mean. We haven't, by no stretch, reached the summit. I think we've got well and truly out of base camp, and we've made our way up to the top of Mount Everest. And there's no turning back now, but there is a long way to go to that summit to plant that flag. A lot to play out yet. And I think the fact that we can see it, and that's where we want to get to, because I put it on the table after that Geelong win, that the expectation now is not just to finish top 4 or top 2. This is to win a grand final in 2024, and that's the way we need to see it. So what more motivation could you want than this is the year we want it, and we do not want to slip up. And I think as well, like, although our depth isn't outstanding, I think there's enough good players running around in the VFL at the moment who are putting genuine pressure on our role players. And I don't want our role players, in fact, I don't want any player in our team to think that they are safe. And as much as we like stability about our team at the moment, and I think that's one of the reasons why we are motoring along quite nicely, you could ill afford now to slip up. We've got the likes of, Motlop, just waiting for his opportunity to come into this football team. It might even be this week, with Fantasia being subbed out. Is he going to be dropped and Motlop comes in? It seems a like for like, although Fantasia did play a large majority of the Geelong game on the wing. Cunningham played a half in the VFL on the weekend against Southport. Looked okay, but I wouldn't expect him to be coming in straight away. He's at the very least probably another couple of weeks away to be considered. But I think the one who is, I think, knocking on the door is Caleb Marchbank. He's found some really good form in the VFL. I thought he was outstanding, probably our best player, to be perfectly honest. In another disappointing loss, I might do a bit of a video on our VFL program, maybe next week. But Marchbank, he's not the forgotten defender. I think he had an outstanding final series last year when he came in and replaced Brodie Kemp. But I think he's really good insurance. I really do. And if there is a drop-off, particularly in that part of the ground, I think we could rely on a really fit Caleb Marchbank to come in and play a really good role for us. So, yeah, you wouldn't want to be dropping off. And we've got also, Jackson Binns who can come in. I know he hasn't had really any opportunities. And Jack Martin, Who else am I missing out on, guys? But there are a few other players who will be desperate to get into this football team of ours, particularly with finals on the horizon and potentially something very special as well. So what motivation, as I said, could you really ask for than wanting to be part of something very, very exciting for this football team at the moment? So one of the fascinations with me for this game as well is who Alex Cincotta will play on. He's become an extremely important part of this football team, and who would have thought that we would be looking at Cincotta in such high regards and such an important part. I think the plus for me with Cincotta is not necessarily the fact that he's shutting out players, but he's also having an impact. But he's not a one-dimensional tagger or lockdown type of player or run with type of player. He can play that defensive forward role, which he did on Tom Stewart against Geelong. He can go into the midfield and play a lockdown role on one of the best midfielders in the competition, and he can also play a defensive sort of just as a defender as well. And play on a dangerous small forward or medium-sized forward. So who do you think? Throw some names out there. I mean, the obvious ones, obviously, Dusty. I don't think he'll go to Dusty, personally. I don't think so. Taranto. I don't think Taranto's damaging enough to tag. Could be Baker. Baker is that real spark for them. He does provide them with that, something that they don't have a lot of, that speed, and he does get involved. That's the midfielders we look at. If he's going to go to a defender, which he's done last week against Tom Stewart, is it a Vlastone? I think he's been arguably the Tigers' best defender in 2024. Such a really strong intercept defender. He could go to Vlastone, or he could even go to Damrioli. He provides a fair bit of run and a fair bit of creativity as well. And the other one is Shai Bolton. If he does go to a dangerous midfielder or a half forward, it is Shai Bolton, who hasn't had the best of season. He's had some really good moments this year, like you would expect. And he has served up some pretty special moments against us in the past, and it'd be good to shut him up for 4 quarters. So tell me what you think. I'm gonna have a crack here, guys, and say he's going to go to Baker. I'm going to say Baker for Alex Cincotta. Tell me what you think. Anyway, as I said, I didn't want to talk too much about Richmond. You look at their team, and there's still a sprinkling of premiership players in the lineup that will play us on the weekend, and I can't foresee any great changes other than Hopper coming in. Obviously, Tom Lynch goes out. They've got Toby Nankervis, who's combative. That will be interesting to see how, big TDK plays against Toby Nankervis. Or is there a slight chance that Mark Pittonet comes in? I'm not quite sure. Personally, I don't really care who we play, as long as we get the 4 points. Jaden Short hasn't been the player he was in a really strong team. Jack Graham is hard at it. He's played a premiership player. Nathan Broad, he's been around a while as a premiership player. I think Noah Bolter's played in a premiership. I actually like him. I think any one of our key forwards is going to be playing on Noah Bolter. I suggest it will probably be Charlie. He's probably going to be in for a tough day at the office. I think he's been pretty bloody good for him this season. Rioli, Vlastone, already mentioned them. Camden McIntosh. Just seems like a perfect matchup would be Blake Acres versus Camden McIntosh. I think they're a similar type player. McIntosh might be on the way down, whereas Acres has really reached the pinnacle of his career at the moment. Rel Smith has been in and out of the team, provides a fair bit of run. Baker's Baker's a really good player. And they've got so many of these players that you just get mixed up and just trying to get a read on how good they can be for the Tigers. And one of these I reckon might get under our guard. So Mansell, Seth Campbell, Sonzi, they just all seem to be similar type players who provide a fair bit of spark for them, but are just not right or not ready just yet. The other one is Noah Cumberland, and I know he's been a source of frustration for a lot of Richmond fans. They seem to get stuck into Noah Cumberland a fair bit. So, and Paddy Dow's brother Thompson, he's had a relatively serviceable season. And one player I really like from the Tigers is Tom Brown. He's the son of former Geelong player, I think it was Paul Brown. He's classy. He's really classy across half back. Uses the ball really well. Glides across the ground. I think he's got a lot of promise. That's enough for the Tigers, though. Let's have a look at us. I really like the balance of our team at the moment. So we're going to have to be really careful about the replacements. Chera, if he's ready, will come in. Who goes out? Is it just the case of, okay, Fantasia goes out, Chera comes in? And I think right here, right now, that might be it. The only other change that you could make is Durden out and Motlop in. That's the next replacement, because you can't be, off the back of what Matthew Owies was able to do against the Cats, you're not going to be dropping a Matthew Owies. But the team is exceptionally well balanced at the moment. My only concern, and it's just a small concern at the moment, and it's probably not going to be challenged against, well, I don't think it will be challenged against Richmond, is our back line. It is looking really good, don't get me wrong, but I just think there's still a slight concern on our second tall. Loving the development of Brody Kemp, and I think McGovern is done exceptionally well. But at times, particularly with Jeremy Cameron, and I know he's one of the best in the competition, Wiedering is so good as that lockdown defender, but I still think I've still got this worry that we could be exposed, and I know it's more than just about our back 6 and 7. But I think Kemp and McGovern potentially can be still exposed defensively. But I would like to think that Brody Kemp over the course of the next 6 or 7 weeks will continue to grow and grow and grow, and gain extra confidence. But that's my only concern with this team at the moment. I think we're really strong in the midfield, particularly with Cherry coming back. Wings are strong, halfbacks are strong. Cowan's coming along. He's just a really young, hard-at-it defender, and our smalls are desperate. They want to get involved, whether it's Fogarty, whether it's Owies, whether it's Chincotta if he's playing there. They're just hard at it, really desperate, and we've got the best two key forwards in the game with Zachy Williams, who I want after going goalless against the Cats a couple of weeks back. Last weekend. I want him to hit the scoreboard against the Tigers. I really do. I know it's not all about goals, but you don't want to go a second game without hitting the scoreboard 2 games in a row. After he was pretty prolific in his first 3 games as a forward, but extremely well balanced football team. But at the same time, don't take your spot for granted. Not at this time of year, particularly with something very, very exciting on the horizon. But I fully expect a comfortable win against the Tigers. I would love a belting. I really would. But there's something about Carlton and Richmond games. I'm not saying it's going to be a nail biter. But even when, I'll finish off with this, guys, but even when Richmond were coming and coming strongly, and I'm talking, 214, 215, 216, they had a down year, but then won the Premiership 217, and then 3 flags in 4 years. We were always competitive against them. And when we were crap, we were always competitive against them. In fact, in games against Richmond, when we weren't good and they were really strong, we led them or came back. But they always would reel us in, and they were always just showed that I suppose that strength to be able to pull away. And you look at the score lines the last 10 times we've played them, the biggest margin in that time was Richmond by 43 points. They won by 26 points, 26 points, 33 points, 28 points, 24 points, 25 points Richmond. Then we got them by 25 points. That was that first game that Michael Voss was in charge. Then Richmond got us later in the year by 15 points. We had that draw, and then us by 5 points. So, it'd be lovely to be able to belt them by in excess of 60 points. But I'm not going to be overly concerned if the margin is, to be perfectly honest, I don't really care as long as we're winning and cementing our spot in that top two at the moment. Okay, so tell us what you think, and I'll be at the footy on Sunday at the G, and get around my friends from League T's. Speak soon.